Hi, this is Shauna from the Foil Fox. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am sharing Painted Peony by Concord and Knife. It's this wonderful floral stamp set. It has a large blossom. I'm not using that today, but it has a small blossom, the leaves, and the berries that I am using. It has a matching die set. And I'm also going to be using the Paper Tray Ink Scallop Circle, the middle one there. And then for the sentiment, Penny Black's Thinking of You. And I'm going to be using the sentiment that's thinking of you. I think that's a very nice, sweet sentiment. And then let's get started on the paper. I'm going to be using some hot press watercolor paper and then a piece of 110-pound white cardstock to cut out that circle, and then another piece of 110-pound white cardstock. That is 4 1/4 by 7 3/4, and then a piece of slate that's 4 1/4 by 7 1/2, and a white card base when folded 4 1/4 by 7 1/2. So this slate fits perfectly on the top of this white card base. I want it completely covered, and I'm using some double stick tape to stick that down, but you can use whatever you like. If you like to have glue or however you like to stick it down, then just use that. And now it fits, I've got the card base with that completely covered. I'm going to take this piece of 4 1/4 by 4 3/4, and I made it a little bit longer, and you'll see why in just a minute. And I'm using this paper trimmer and cutting 3/4 inch strips. Now, this, like I say, is 4 1/4 by 7 1/2, 7 3/4. So I will have a little strip left over. I'm going to use that little strip, and you'll see why in a minute. But I'm going to put that right on the fold, and I'm going to make the top, once I put this double stick tape down, I'm going to match it up perfectly at the top and on the side. And then you'll see I'll have a little bit left over at the bottom. But that's what I planned that. That's why I made it longer, so that I can trim that at the bottom. When you leave one side a little bit longer, it gives you a chance to trim it and make it just like a perfectly, it doesn't look like all wibbly wobbly at the bottom. It makes a perfectly straight bottom when you do it this way. Now I'm going to go on with the next strip, which is 3/4 of an inch, and I'm leaving a gap of like 1 3/30, just a tiny, tiny gap, just enough where I can just see a little bit of that gray peeking through. So this is going to create kind of a vertical shiplap pattern. And I have double stick tape on each of these strips. I'm just going to stick them down, making sure that my top is very, very straight at there where these join. But at the bottom, I'm going to have some hanging over, and that's what I want. And this one actually hangs over also, and we're going to trim that side as well. But you can see just that tiniest bit of gray. And see, I'm going to trim these two sides with my trimmer. And now that I've done that, I'm going to take some distress inks. I've taken out ice spruce and speckled egg, but I think the speckled egg is more what I want to use. The ice spruce is a little more gray, so I don't think I'm going to use that. Just using a small blending brush, and I'm just going right down the center of all of these little gaps that I created, the 1 32nd gaps, and I'm just accenting them. That's all that I'm doing here. I want to leave plenty of white showing, but just accenting those little gaps, just so that you can really see that shiplap pattern. Now that that's done, I set that aside, and I'm using the Karen watercolor markers. I love these markers. They're fabulous to use. I spritz this a little bit, and I'm just using a dark pink. I have a moistened brush. I don't have a lot of water on my brush. I don't want to drown it. And I wanted a little bit more color, so I've scribbled some on my glass mat and just touching that onto my flower. And I'm going to use a little bit of yellow too for the centers. And also I like a little bit in my petals so that they don't look so monotone. And I'm just going to demonstrate using the small flower, the two sizes of leaves, and the berries, because that's all I'm using for this card design. And I'm only going to demonstrate just one set, but in reality I'm going to make lots of flowers, lots of leaves, and some berries. I don't need as many of those. I'm using a dark green and that actually has a little bit of blue on it, and I'm going to add in kind of a medium green that is really a true green, and color those. I like to put a little touch of yellow at the tip too. But now I'm going to move on to the berry. I'm using brown. I'm going to use very, very few markers for this. And I've colored that with a brown without spritzing it. The others I'm spritzing, but not the brown. I don't want that to bleed. Now I'm just on my glass mat, or you can use a plate or whatever you have that has a hard surface. And I'm just adding those little berries in the blue. It has a stamp for that, but I'm not going to use the stamp. I just find just touching those with a little bit of the berries just really easy to do, much easier. And I'm doing this large leaf using that kind of blue-green again and a little touch of the true green. And then I'm going to take a little bit of that yellow and just touch that at the top as well. Once I add a little bit more green. You can use any colors or color combinations, or if you want a darker green, that can work too. But here are the 4 pieces that I'm going to be using. Like I said, I'm going to make lots of flowers and leaves and then some of the berries. But I'm not going to bore you with making all of them on screen. And then once all of them are done, I'm going to cut them all out. You can see that's how the dies fit. So here I am, I've got my card base back, and I have all these flowers, and I've put some foam tape on the back of the flowers and the leaves. And now I've got that middle circle that I used, and I cut that out of the white card base, card stock, sorry. And now I'm going to take all of these flowers and I'm just going to arrange them so I get them so I can get a mental picture how they all fit. So it'll make it a lot easier, and I won't have as much guessing when I go to stick them down. Because once you stick them down, I don't want to tear the paper or anything like that. So it's better just to do it, as a practice run. And you can make some of these lap over the sides and then trim it off. But I don't know why. I have a real aversion to doing that. I do it sometimes, and you'll see I will trim off this circle once I get an idea. But for flowers, I just hate to cover them up or to lose parts of them if I can avoid it. And then once that I've got this sort of arranged, I am going to tuck in these berries just to get an idea where I might want them to go. And now I can take that circle because I have it there, and I'm gonna, you can get an idea that I have it right positioned where I want it to, and I'm gonna leave it there while I do peel off the release tape of most of these leaves and flowers and stick them down. I'm going to just tuck them in here and there. I did have that kind of mental picture. They do shift a little bit. The time when you do stick them down, you change position a little bit, but that's no problem. No worries there. And I just really like how it gives you this nice field of bright flowers. And now that I have pretty much everything stuck down, not everything, but pretty much, taken the sentiment I'm using, and I'm just laid it there on top of that circle to see how it's going to fit. I'm going to use my pencil to mark where to trim this circle off. I've just trimmed that off now. And I'm taking some VersaFine black ink. I love VersaFine black ink. It just stamps so clean and so crisp. And I've inked up my sentiment. I'm just going to stamp this down. Now with the sentiment all stamped, I'm going to just tuck that back in there to make sure that fits right. And now that I'm satisfied with that, I will put some glue down. I always like to check it twice before gluing it down. It's kind of like cut, measure twice and cut once, just to make sure that, because once I stick this glue down, it is down, and I don't want to destroy anything, all the work that I've gone to the trouble of. And now that I have all the flowers pretty much in place, I'm just going to tuck in these berries. I just think these berries just kind of add to it. And now I'll just glue them down. And we're nearly done with this card design. It works up really quickly, and it's got a huge impact because of all these bright flowers on them and the leaves. And now we're just nearly done. The only thing I'm going to do, I did take a black marker and mark in the center of these flowers, thinking that was going to do it. But I think I'm going to go over it with black stickles, because they give you a little bit of dimension and just a tiniest bit of glitter. So it's a nice little accent to your card. And now here we are with it all done, and you can really get an idea how those stickles make those centers pop. And look at the wonderful field of flowers that we have here. I think this will delight anyone. I really enjoyed making this card, and I hope you did too. Please give us a thumbs up if you did, and I would love it if you would subscribe. And then here we use the Painted Peony stamp and die set, the scallop circles, and then of course the penny black, thinking of you. But you can see all of the supplies. Let's just click the link down below, and it'll pop you over to where there's a complete supply list, oodles more inspiration. So we hope that you will do that, and we hope to see you next time. Bye.